Hey, hey, here comes the donkey balls. Here they come. Your team sucks, donkey balls. Bouncing, 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 here they come. Open your mouth and get a big bunch. Suck them, 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 suck them. Hey, hey, here comes the donkey balls. Here they come. Your team sucks, donkey balls. Bouncing, 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 here they come. Open your mouth and get a big bunch. Suck them, 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 suck them. Hey, hey, here comes the donkey balls. Here they come. Your team sucks, donkey balls. Bouncing, 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 here they come. Open your mouth and get a big bunch. Suck them, 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 suck them.
donkey balls, they're hanging low. Those donkey balls, they're not for show. Why wait, suck 'em dry, then go to the corner and cry. When the donkey balls come bouncing, there just ain't nowhere to hide. Grab 'em up and suck 'em dry. Now every time someone hears a loud thud, they think of those balls and their silly flood. They laugh with delight at that wild, bouncy night when donkeys and cows danced in the mud. Now every time someone hears a loud thud, they think of those balls and their silly flood. They laugh with delight at that wild, bouncy night when donkeys and cows danced in the mud. When donkeys and cows danced in the mud. Those donkey balls, they're hanging low. Those donkey balls, they're not for show. Why wait, suck 'em dry, then go to the corner and cry. When the donkey balls come bouncing, there just ain't nowhere to hide. Grab 'em up and suck 'em dry. Now every time someone hears a loud thud, they think of those balls and their silly flood. They laugh with delight at that wild, bouncy night when donkeys and cows danced in the mud. When the donkey balls come bouncing, there just ain't nowhere to hide. Grab 'em up and suck 'em dry. Now every time someone hears a loud thud, they think of those balls and their silly flood. They laugh with delight at that wild, bouncy night when donkeys and cows danced in the mud.
Ain't nobody wanna talk about these goddamn bums. Nobody, no one at all. Let's throw 'em to the side. Let's throw 'em to the side. 'Cause they ain't worth a fucking time. Ain't nobody wanna talk about these goddamn bums. Nobody, no one at all. Let's throw 'em to the side. Let's throw 'em to the side. 'Cause they ain't worth a fucking time. Da-da-da-da-da. Let's throw 'em to the side. Let's throw 'em to the side. 'Cause they ain't worth a fucking time. Like worth a fucking time.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a Tocino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a Tocino d'amor.
Welcome college football fans to another weekly installment of
Your team sucks donkey balls.
with Dr. Balls.
All right, guys, welcome back to Smacking Off the Podcast.
What's going on? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hell yeah, man. I think I got this thing figured out.
You got a whip, Doug.
Jason, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? You got me?
Gotcha. I don't know
Yeah,
who else
absolutely.
is coming in. This is our last Donkey Balls encounter, so
Hey, can I go ahead and just get this out of the way? As I was listening to the music going into this podcast, I happened to think that it was AI generated because there's no way in hell that my grandmother had this on her phonograph when I was a kid.
yeah, it's AI generated, and one of them, I wrote some of the lyrics. I put lyrics in there, and then it wrote the rest of them, and they're fucking terrible. The ones I wrote, I'm not saying that I'm not saying I'm a songwriter or a great songwriter, but mine were way better than the AI's. The AI's was completely out of sync with what I was writing about.
Well, I'm trying to think of a female singer from the '60s, and I was like, I don't remember ever hearing them.
Oh, that's like an Ella Fitzgerald sound, isn't it?
Yeah, the Ella Fitzgerald. That's actually a good one. I don't remember ever hearing, when the tape is recording, Ella Fitzgerald ever saying the word "fucking." So that's what I heard. I was like,
no, it's AI generated.
Okay, makes sense now.
Nikki.
Oh,
Hello.
what's up, Nikki?
Nothing. It always boots me the first time I try to join.
It doesn't like you. Or
No,
something.
but it lets me back in the second time.
Oh, yeah, we got a shout out to Bruce Martinez, the dog father. He's commented. What's up, Bruce?
I miss Bruce.
Yes, I talked to him on the phone the other day for a little while. Oh, he said humans write better songs, and I think it's right, Doug. You wrote a better Donkey Ball song, and it truly captured the spirit of our show.
Well, you
and
know,
of the
I did not realize how bad some of those AI generated lyrics were. I used a lot of those songs, like, 30 or 40 seconds of them, and I stuck them on the countdown, not listening to them, and I didn't realize it had written its own lyrics after my lyrics were done, and they were fucking terrible.
So what you and I ought to do, and you could invite Tabitha too, is we could sit on the steps of the Smacking Off home office and with acoustic guitars and make our own renditions of them just for everybody, and then make Cowboy Adam proud of us.
Yeah, we can put a phonograph record out, Smacking Off the album.
There you go.
You
That's
can help
right.
support our bowl game next year.
And if you
So
buy now, you get a free Getsu knife.
Ed,
Hey,
we can hear you.
What's up,
I thought
Ed?
it was tomorrow night, and I just saw Nikki's message that I'm backstage. I'm like, oh shit.
Ed, I didn't think you were coming on. I thought you were sick. So good to have you, though.
It's a long story, but I actually took too much of my Ozempic, and I was in bad shape for a couple days.
Goodness.
Okay, so as far as the, I've only got one donkey ball door tonight, and the rest of it's geared toward these very prestigious awards.
Hallelujah.
So we've got Landon Beeman coming on toward the end. He kind of wants to talk about the same thing that Jason wants to talk about. I believe the committee selections.
I've just got to get some angst out tonight, too. I've been holding it in for way too long.
Okay.
Hell yeah, we love Rivers back off the podcast.
Like the
That's
Pope's
just
a bear.
13. That's
All
right.
right. So I'm gonna go for this only door, and then we'll do the rest. So let's go ahead and jump in, guys.
You're smooching donkey balls, those wrinkled, hairy donkey balls. You know you do. You know it's true.
Ooh, Mike Campbell at Iowa State. I'm kind of surprised by that one.
Not Matt Campbell.
Really, there's nobody else to fuck with this weekend. There really isn't. I mean, I could have went after the Tulane guy. What's his name? Summerall.
Yeah, John Summerall.
Yeah, I could have went after him.
We should have gone after him so that he got the message and would go back to Kentucky for Dr. Balls.
You hear
Yeah,
that?
that's what we're thinking.
You hear that?
That's what we're thinking.
Coach?
Yep. Yeah, that's what we're thinking, man. Is we're thinking that due to the everybody leaving in the transfer portal and the transfer portal prospects that are coming in are 2 stars and 0 stars, I think it's time for Vince Marrow and Mark Stoops to leave the game and bring in John Summerall, who already proved he could coach an offensive line, and bring the blue wall back to Kentucky so we can push people around on the line. Because that's what's missing are Mark Stoops that's went off. And really, it's not his fault, because what happened is the damn defensive line coach died, John Schlarman, of cancer. Right.
Jesus.
And he was the one recruiting these guys. He was the one developing them into NFL offensive linemen. And they were the only reason for Kentucky's success is that what successes they have had since Stoops has been in Kentucky are entirely dependent on the offensive linemen. And when they haven't had a line, they've sucked. I don't care what transfer quarterback they've put in there. None of them has been able to run away from the blitz. It's hitting them every down. So if you don't even have to have but 4 good down linemen, you don't have to blitz or nothing, and you're crushing Kentucky because the line sucks. So therefore they suck. But because Iowa State lost to Arizona State, and that's shout out to Austin Parrish, then they suck donkey balls.
Absolutely. You know, it's a shame we can't handle this coaching shit through the fucking portal. You know?
Like a coach portal, a coaching portal?
Fuck yeah. We need one.
Oh, I'd love that.
We should just put him on like the trade block.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can trade Tulane, Mark Stoops for Summerall. Easy, clean trade.
They wouldn't trade that contract, though. I guarantee you that.
No, they don't. Tulane don't want that contract. I promise you.
Oh yeah,
Kentucky don't want that contract, do they? Do they, Bob?
No. What do you think, Jason? Is Stoops the most overpaid coach in college football?
I wouldn't go that far. And I'm going to bust your balls here, Dr. Balls, but we are talking a little bit about Kentucky football here. He has had them they had a bad season. This was a Thunderdome season in the SEC. So you were going to have some losers. And unfortunately, Kentucky had to be one of them. So
you think Kentucky could get the same value by paying $5 million a year, though?
Well, yeah. You could also have lightning strike twice, and he get an offer to go to Arkansas. You wouldn't have to worry about it anymore.
But I'd love to see that. Worry, Arkansas fans are offering Pittman for any other coach right now. Like, they don't care who it is; they will trade.
Goodness! Now I'm watching Arkansas and Michigan right now. Ed, are you watching the Arkansas-Michigan game?
Of course.
Of course. Michigan's ranked number 14, but they weren't that. I was going to say they weren't that great last year, but they got some good recruits, some portal guys. It looks like a little bit better coach. So, who's the new coach? Who's the new coach here at Michigan?
It's the guy from FAU, Dusty May.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm watching right now. They're in a matchup with Arkansas, and we'll see what happens. Arkansas's got a lot of talent, but Michigan looks like they're strong overall. But we're on college football, and there's a lot. We're on donkey balls, and there's so much disappointment, guys, across the SEC.
Be a good game.
Yeah, it should be a good game. There's so much disappointment out there, guys. So who really to segue into our other awards, who really has had the most disappointing season in college football?
FSU.
Yeah, I mean they did that. What a mess.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I would have to go with FSU, but I'm trying to think of like some other ones that had like really like they had a lot of The Kansas Jayhawks could probably be a nominee because there was a lot of high expectations coming in for them, and they finished 5-7. Yes, they did get a couple of wins over Colorado and such, but they just never were able to find it out throughout the season. And with what Lance Leipold has done at that program since he's got there, for them to finish 5-7 would be disappointing. But I do agree, it's kind of tough to really top a 2-10 Florida State team. Which I'll tell you guys a story. When I was down in Fort Lauderdale for signing day at CBS Sports HQ, I happened to walk up there in Cadell's office.
Well, which award were y'all talking about, guys?
Most disappointing.
Well, we could be any of them. The ones where it's the BUJO, the Life Championship, all of them have to deal with disappointment. They all have to deal with in some way or another that your team sucked donkey balls. They weren't able to meet their objectives. It's just what degree did they do? Did they completely suck? Were they the worst team in college football, or were they close? And then they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
The BUJO is directed more toward the worst team in college football. Although we didn't go strictly by that, you only had to be below 500. But yeah, that's what we're calling it. We're calling it the worst team in Power Conference. Y'all ready to look at that one?
Yeah, it has to be Florida State and Oklahoma State.
Okay, Oklahoma State made the list, but did not make the top. Let's look, guys.
Welcome to the Sucky Club. That sucky, sucky, fuck me club. Where losers standing tall is what we see. Happiness is what we love, even in the Sucky Club. No reason to pretend it has to be. So sucky, sucky's where we gotta be.
The 2024 Golden Donkey Balls trophy goes to Mike Norvale for doing the shittiest coaching job in the entire FBS ranks. Congrats to the Seminole Nation. Your coach is truly a cut above the average asshole.
So sucky, sucky's where we gotta be. Sucky, sucky's where we gotta be. Welcome to the Sucky Club. That sucky, sucky, fuck me club. Where losers standing tall is what we see. Happiness is what we love, even in the Sucky Club. No reason to pretend it has to be. So sucky, sucky's where we gotta be.
Sorry, guys, I pulled the wrong trigger there. That was the Golden Donkey Balls Award. That was to the most prestigious, shittiest coach in the country, right?
Well, hell yeah, let's talk about it. We just mentioned Norvell earlier. He definitely was the winner of that. I mean, if you look at that, we need Rip Torn run around with some confetti, just like the $1.98 badge at this point. But
was he the shittiest coach, or he did the shittiest job?
He definitely did a shitty job. It's debatable what the Golden Donkey Balls is for. It's for nothing good. We do know that.
The Purdue coach could be up there.
Yeah, but did the Purdue coach didn't come in with a team that had went undefeated in the season before?
No, I'm just saying.
Trent Dilfer team. Yeah, what team did Trent Dilfer coach?
UAB.
Oh yeah, they had a bad year too, but not nowhere near compared to Norvell though. These are guys were whining, and here's what's so good that it's Norvell. I mean, and Nikki's commented on this many times. You can see it the way the players played. I don't believe there was any kind of. They just didn't seem motivated. They weren't hard hitting in general. they just didn't look like they really cared about the situation. He wasn't able to get players to rally to the cause. I mean, compared to last year's undefeated season, they just took a shit.
Yeah,
So I
it was
just
the
want to
worst.
say, I want to say that me and Dr. Balls, we forced Mark Stoops into the fucking list. He probably didn't belong there.
But
Well-
Norvell absolutely did the worst job of managing a big time program. Absolutely.
I think it started last year. I think it just spilled it into this year.
Yeah, but he did basically everything wrong.
Well, speaking
I mean,
of shit,
starting with not convincing his players to go to the Orange Bowl and play their ass off, in my opinion.
well, speaking of shit, did anybody ever find out the fan that was supposed to eat the dog shit at the beginning of the season?
That was Tiggy. It's always Tiggy.
Tiggy.
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Tell us about it.
Well, there was a fan that proclaimed on Twitter that if FSU would have lost to Boston College, that he would eat dog shit out of a red Solo cup.
That sounds like a Tiggy troll to me, doesn't it, you Bob?
Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like Tiggy does. I mean, the only other person that extreme would be Justin Pike. You know.
Yeah, and he don't do the shit thing. He always just promises he's going to drink his own piss.
Well,
but it doesn't happen.
But the thing about it is as that game was going on, and as Florida State was beating Boston College, he deleted his Twitter account and was never
that's
found
Tiggy
again.
Tiggy Dome is like the king of all trolls, right? And he's got a bunch of different names and accounts and on and on and on. And we thought he was like a college age kid, but he got exposed. And I don't know, the story's been told before that he may have been smelling like he's 50s or 60s.
No.
And,
I think it's more like 40s.
40s. Well, anyway.
Yeah, it's been a few years though. He might be in his mid 40s now.
Yeah, so this guy is like a legendary troll. And he used to keep the groups all stir up, and that's his antics. If I ever heard his antics, that's that. And he just didn't exist. He has burner accounts, burner phones, and he may be listed under some other name right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you are, fuck you, Tiggy.
Yeah, what's
bring your ass back on the podcast.
That's right. Bring your ass back on the podcast. Let's talk about Gonzaga, Kentucky, Tiggy, about how we come in your place and we come down from 16 points and kicked your ass in overtime, Tiggy. Since you're a Gonzaga fan, that's my invitation to you.
Tell me how you really feel.
So let's look at these other coaches here. Hugh Freeze. I don't really think that Hugh Freeze has done. I don't think he did a terrible job. Well, it's bad. It's bad. Definitely not on the level of Norvell though.
And I think the worst of Hugh is he will blame everyone else.
Not God. He'll never blame God.
No, he just uses him.
Yeah, he'll baptize you.
Like I hear he has a few burner phones.
Yeah, I've heard. How about Lincoln Riley?
Oh Lord.
Yeah, he's. I'm surprised he's still there.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, he's a hell of a defensive
they don't want to come off the buyout, I guess.
But they have him. I mean, come on. They have a cause of this whole investigation, and they're already on probation. They can use that.
Oh yeah, they'll save a ton of money like that. If they could put Venables and Raleigh together, you could have both sides of the ball. You know.
Well, I'm sure they got the lawyers going through all the fine print.
Yeah, but they're I don't know. Their fans are like bipolar. I don't know how you can explain them. Over the last 3 weeks, I have watched their groups go from "We love Riley," "Oh my God, fire him, get rid of him," and then the first mention of the Bears hiring him, they all had meltdowns on the page. We can't lose him. I feel bad for him. It's an emotional like roller coaster. They need some bipolar meds or something. But
why would anyone willfully go to the Chicago Bears right now?
As the head coach?
Yes, because
Because he's about to get fired from USC. Easy way out.
It just almost feels like a torturous job because John Fox even went there and he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I just
I mean,
feel
that's
like
as
that would
conservative
be
as
an
you get.
easy out, so he didn't get fired. He could like run away.
So you're saying that you want to go for the most conservative coach that is possible to the most, with all the lack of success they have, you might as well go with the wildest possible coach you could go. It might bloom into something different. I actually like the idea of that someone's been following Chicago football for 50 years. I would actually like to see something like that happen because Mike Dick ain't going to walk through that door. So I would try something different, especially with all the draft choices they've made and wasted. I mean, how many quarterbacks have the Bears tried to develop in the draft in just the last 10 years? 5?
And I think that's why they want him back with Caleb, thinking that it will help him because he can't really do anything right now.
I mean, you can ruin these guys. Look at Tim Couch. I mean, he comes to the league, he don't have an offensive line. He's shell shocked. He's scared to death. The same thing is happening for you. Got to get Caleb Williams before he's ruined. I agree with Jason. They should do something bizarre like that. I mean, at least they'll throw the football.
What do
Yeah,
they
but
have
you
to
know what?
lose?
It doesn't tend to work out very well when you hire a coach to fix the quarterback. You need somebody that can run the team.
Yeah, I agree, Jed.
So tell me, Bob, what was Mark Stoops' record this year? Does anybody know?
Wasn't it 4-8? Wasn't they 4-8 or 5-7?
4-8.
I mean, but I think you've got that indicator there, and I mean versus Georgia up in Lexington and then on the road in Oxford. You have that indicator there that this team was capable. They were capable of 9 wins, probably.
Now, here's the problem the last 2 years in particular. So the last 2 years, they said they was going to throw the tight end, for example. They had potential all SEC tight ends on the team, George Dingle, on and on. I mean, they had 4 guys that tight end could play anywhere in the SEC, never went to them. Right? The offensive line sucks. And yet, we had near historic talent for Kentucky on defense, and even it couldn't generate wins for us just in those situations. So the potential of the defense was so great that they could pull off a win against Ole Miss at Ole Miss, right? But because the line was so bad, you couldn't generate any points. I mean, they could play stall ball and hold the ball as long as they possibly could, but they weren't scoring with it. Then the best thing that the Kentucky did all year was put in the 4-star red short transfer to the future because they Pendergrass was just getting killed, and now he's shell shocked. As soon as the ball would come out, he would take off and juke to one side or another. He didn't have time to make a read. He was already taking off. So the offensive lines went downhill, and he hasn't been able to adequately replace John Schlarman as the offensive line coach. That's the real root of all these guys.
Real quick, Sean, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Just making sure. He's been in here for a little while.
Oh, I didn't see him. It's my fault. My phone's tiny.
God damn it, Bob.
But it's Galaxy Note 10, but it don't work on my iPad. I used to do this on my iPad, and I can see everybody so good. And it's this particular streaming service hates my iPad.
All right, so Brent Venables. I mean, they had that big win that literally knocked Alabama out of the playoffs because you take that. Alabama wins that game 10-9 against a shitty Oklahoma team in Norman. They're in the playoffs.
They might have got in if it was a close loss, but they just
you're right. It was close enough that's possible, but definitely if they go up there, even if they play like shit and win, they're in. Alabama's got nobody to fucking blame but themselves.
I agree.
Yeah.
The
defense looking forward to the bowl game.
Well, Brent Venables is probably going to be on the hunt for some wide receivers because Nick Anderson just went to the transfer portal, and they had already been hurting, pun intended, throughout the season for some wide receivers. And he's got Michael Williams Jr., but Jackson Arnold's gone to the portal. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of moves that he does this offseason in the portal to be able to shore that up again. They're obviously going to start things over with the offensive coordinator, but that's the part that he's really got to that he's really got to button down? Because it seems like the defense is pretty good at Oklahoma. It's just that offense was just so anemic throughout the year.
They need a top flight quarterback.
Well, everybody's looking for
They
that.
had a top flight quarterback and let him go. They need another one.
Yeah,
All right,
Jordan Gabriel.
guys,
I'm sure.
So the last time that we had talked about this, and I was supposed to pull the trigger for the BUJO, that's what I'm going to pull now. So these are teams that are under 500, but really we were kind of looking for the worst team in Power Five in the Power Five. I'm not sure that it worked out that way, but let's take a look.
Your Team Sucks, Donkey Balls, and Smacking Off the Podcast presents the BUJO for the worst power conference team of the 2024 season. First off, let us show you our honorable mentions. The Kentucky Wildcats, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and the Purdue Boilermakers. And the 2024 BUJO goes to the Florida State Seminoles.
I actually agree with this, Doug, because Florida State, they just weren't cohesive. He didn't bring the best out of his players, just like the Georgia game last year. Their New Year's Day bowl against Georgia, guys didn't even want to play. The ones that did show up didn't put out. In my opinion, like Nicky's been saying all year, he lost the team.
So here's my question, though, and like I said, this doesn't have to be the worst Power Five team, but that's kind of what we're gearing toward with the BUJO. Who wins at a neutral site game between Florida State and Purdue?
Florida State in a low scoring, really hard game to watch.
Purdue.
I would agree, Ed.
Purdue.
Well, judging by this award show tonight, Florida State's going to be the Taylor Swift of shit.
Yes. Yes, that's the way it worked out.
And it feels so good.
That's the way it shook out. I mean, I think Nikki had a lot to do with it.
I did.
She voted 2 or 3 times on some of these polls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Karma's their boyfriend, I guess.
But think about this, Jason. Now that Florida State has looked so bad, I know you got the transfer portal and NIL and all that, but the other Florida programs like Florida State and Miami can benefit from recruiting that FSU is probably squandering right now, and I'm thinking Florida wants to benefit in particular.
We already have 4 of their players.
Well, now that you're bringing in Gus Malzahn, who was the head coach at UCF, as your offensive coordinator, and I think if I understand correctly, DJ Uiagalelei is trying to come back for another season, a Van Wilder season, if you could say. But now you gotta think of it from this standpoint. Do you trust to roll with him for another year after the way everything's gone? Luke Cromenhoe.
No, because he's never done it anywhere.
Luke's
he
transferred.
didn't get it done at Clemson. He didn't get it done at Oregon State. He hasn't gotten it done at Florida State.
But it doesn't. It's not going to matter because Luke's transferring. He's put his name in the portal. So they're going to be stuck with DJ because the 2 recruits that they were bringing in, they lost. They decommitted.
Or do you do what the Arizona Cardinals did a couple of years ago after going for Josh Rosen and then turn around and get you a Kyler Murray? Like, that's the question that's going to be in this offseason for Mike Norvell and Florida State. And really, this season has pretty much shown that there's a lot of holes to fill with this Florida State team. And I don't even know if they're going to be able to do it.
Well, that was the issue this year. 100% he's going to have the same issue next year. He relied so heavy on that portal to fill the positions, and those players didn't care once they got there. I don't think it was what they expected. We've seen it from game 1. There was no leadership. There was no nothing. They didn't care. And it's just gone throughout the whole year. So now he's going to be stuck because those players are already in the portal. He probably has a ton more. He's lost, I think he had 10 decommits.
Yes. Yeah, I was
And
going to get to
so,
that.
But why would Gus Malzahn go there? Because if Norvell gets fired, the fan base doesn't want Malzahn, and the new coach is going to bring in his own guys. So it's a
well,
one-year
not
deal.
necessarily. I mean, he could have in his contract, there could be something in his
Well,
contract that says otherwise. But I really believe UCF was firing him as to why Gus went there. He made
Now,
the easy out because Scott Frost was hired way too quick.
let me
now
take
is
a look.
is Sean on the show?
I am, yeah. What's up?
Sean, well, do you think the Florida State can pull this mess out or with this regime, and if they can, how long do you think they'll give them?
I think you need to stick with Norvell. I will give him credit. He rallied late in the recruiting class. He was as low as I think 57 and rallied to finish at 22. So there's a positive there. He's going to need to plug some more holes, as Jason was saying, with this roster through the transfer portal. The question is there enough money to do it? I think there's serious liquidity concerns with Florida State. Malzahn, I think, is a decent ad. But again, like Ed was saying, Uyunglele, that's I don't think if you're a fan base, you want to see that starting game one next fall.
You don't have a track record anywhere. Go with him. You just don't.
I would try to find something other than that as your quarterback.
I agree.
Well, just 2 quick points on that. With Gus Malzahn leaving to be an offensive coordinator at Florida State, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing this trend a lot more. We saw it with Chip Kelly from UCLA to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Sean Elliott left Georgia State to take an assistant job because the burnout, and especially in this new era, to be a head coach, it's freaking exhausting. One of the reasons, and even Nick Saban said it, that's one of the reasons he retired is because it just became too much, even for the guy that you would just consider would be the head coach forever. And he's like, okay, I got to tap out. This is getting too much.
I think you're just constantly recruiting. Not only are you recruiting high school players, you have to re-recruit your own roster and then recruit transfer. I mean, it's crazy.
And you're not coaching the kids you were coaching just 20 years ago. This is a different type of generation coming through college. They're not. They would rather be dancing on TikTok than listening and building what they're, growing as a team or as a person. Everything's social media these days.
I think Dan Lanning would disagree when it comes to his Oregon team on that, if we remember what he said about playing for clicks.
Well, no, there's coaches that don't, but there's some that just that's what their team does. We've watched Florida State do it all season, and it's kind of like, oh, they don't care about getting on that field because they're making money off of the social media and their NIL deals.
Goodness.
All right,
man,
guys,
I tell you what.
Let's go do a commercial, and then we'll come back and talk the Life Championship. And then the last 15 minutes, Landon Beeman's coming on, and he wants to talk about this selection committee's picks.
Go to smackology.42web.io and click our Fans Edge link for instant savings on awesome products.
Hey, hey, here comes a donkey ball. Here they come, here they come. Your team sucks, donkey balls. Bouncing, 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 here they come. Open your mouth and get a big bunch. Suck them, suck them, suck them, suck them, suck them, suck them, suck them.
Watch Your Team Sucks Donkey Balls live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, these sneakers rock. Wait, are you sure that you trust this website? It looks messy and totally unsecured. It looks like a scam. But it's all different if you use ClearVPN, the first effortless VPN solution for a personalized and secure online experience. ClearVPN, the only VPN you need, because it clearly understands you.
You're listening to the Smacking Off the podcast.
All right, guys, we're back, and I want to give a shout out to Rough and Payne. He commented, "Fuck Texas." Well, whether you love Texas or not, that's the spirit of the show, man. Is fuck your team.
Yes.
Absolutely not. Now, who said that, Bob?
Rough and Payne. We have a commenter here. He said they're pussy ass little bitches. So they're punk ass bitches, yo.
Is he a Georgia guy or is he? He's probably an A&M guy, isn't he?
No, it has
He
been
must be.
Georgia. I've never seen in this SEC, and we all go back and forth. But those two right now, they're on a different level. Wow.
I would agree. I would agree with Nikki because there's Petty, there's Oklahoma, Texas, then there's Texas A&M. That's the scale.
Petty's good though. If you want controversy, and now we've had a 12-team playoff, guys, and there's this end chance for all this controversy. We get to talk about who was left out. We get to talk about who wish they could get in, who's whining the most. I love all of it, guys. So if anybody wants to kick off talking about that aspect, I know you got a beef. You want to talk about it, Jason. So break us off on us, right? What is it? Your beef with the CFP?
Well, it's not necessarily a beef with the CFP, and just allow me a little bit of a moment, and then all of you can discuss amongst yourselves. Once I finally cleanse myself of these toxins, because this always just seems to be my Super Bowl every year. Is when there are people, I call them playoff betas, who make mundane, asinine arguments for teams that don't deserve it, and then I tend to smack them down and then get called a dick in the process. It's like clockwork. It's my Super Bowl every year. And it seems to be happening again this year, where, well, you're just a Bama hater. You're just a SEC hater. Let me just be clear. I hate everybody. Let's just be clear. I hate everybody. I am an equal opportunity offender when it comes to this shit. So let me break it down. Let me break it down for all of you, and even those that are watching that are still trying to cope, I guess, with the fact that I don't know if you guys got the memo or not, but I didn't realize that the SEC changed their branding to Southerners excessively crying. Because that's what I seem to be hearing a lot in the group chats, in the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, that there's just excessive whining. We get it from Greg Byrne. We get it from Lane Kiffin. We're getting it from Shane Beamer about why me? What about me? What about Raven if we want to go with the 90s
Nick Saban was crying too. Nick Saban. Even Nick Saban.
When Nick Saban said the thing about the, about the non-conference schedule, which I'm sitting here going, well, if you look at the teams that were left out, was the non-conference schedule really that much of a factor? And it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. And it wasn't about Alabama's 3-1 against top 25 teams. It was about the no, it wasn't. It was about the one fucking game they lost that they just looked like total shit. That's what got them.
I'm getting there, Doug. I promise. So,
and thank you, Eddie.
I'm thinking, and I just think about this because we had it back in 2018, I believe it was, where Georgia got left out after they had a double-digit lead against Alabama, and Jalen Hurts came in and saved the day. And people are trying to say, well, Vegas odds would have them as a double-digit favorite against Notre Dame, and that's like. I don't know why it pisses me off so much. And even like the people like Clay Travis and stuff like that like to use Vegas odds as an argument for a team to make the playoffs. And here is my response to that. It is, okay, Alabama was a double-digit favorite against Vanderbilt. Alabama was a double-digit favorite against Oklahoma. Ole Miss was a double-digit favorite against Kentucky. What the fuck did that do for them? Nothing.
In Florida.
Well, see,
and Florida.
A lot of people think that means this team, the team that's favored, that means they're going to win. No, it means that this is what they have to set the line at to get equal betting on both sides. It's a public perception. So
that's where you let Sean chime in on this.
It's all it's ever been. The Vegas boys, they don't gamble on this. They don't. They make money no matter what happens.
Odds are they're designed to drive action so the casinos make money. That's why they're so big and have so much money.
And then here's my favorite thing. When they say, well, SMU in Indiana should not be in the playoff. Plug your ears in. SMU and Indiana should not be in the playoff. My response is to the Ole Miss fans, to the Alabama fans, to the South Carolina fans, well, why did you let them in? Why did you let them in? Because going back to what Doug said earlier, if you beat Vanderbilt, if you beat or Oklahoma, or even for that matter, Tennessee, even if you lost to two teams at 6-6, but you beat two top 10 teams, I'm willing to be okay with that and be able to give you a mulligan.
I think Vanderbilt was forgiven, but I don't think even if Alabama would have beat Vanderbilt, had they went to Norman and shit the bed the way they did, still, even with two losses, it was going to be tough.
I think you can lay an egg once, but you can't lay an egg twice. And it comes down to this. Let's break it down here. Let's break it down here for just a second. Let's start with Alabama. Okay. You think you should be in the playoff over SMU. You should think you should be in the playoff over Indiana. Indiana's 11-1. I will concede that their schedule was not their best. SMU, not as strong. I did the research on the opponent win-loss record for Alabama, and it was insane. It was incredible. But here's what it comes down to. If you would have handled business either in Nashville or in Norman, if you match up with an SMU's resume or an Indiana's resume, you may get the benefit of the doubt. But guess what? That didn't happen. Now let's move forward to Ole Miss. Ole Miss lost to, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky and Florida. I always keep forgetting about the Gators, Nikki. I do it on purpose. Just so
I know you do.
But if you win one of those games, you have a top 10 win over which Alabama's best and Ole Miss's best wins are practically identical. And I brought this up in my fireside chat on Saturday night. They're practically identical.
Well, except for the fact that Bama kind of faltered there at the end and had to have heroics to pull the game out. And Ole Miss's win over Georgia was really more solid than Bama's.
It was, but a win's a win for the match. Yeah. It's a top 10 win or top 5, top 10 win. But you crap the bed in your own yard against a Kentucky team that finished 4-8. If you flip that around, okay, now we compare a 10-2 Ole Miss to an 11-1 Indiana, to an 11-2 SMU. And I think that you could make the argument. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? That did not happen. No. Now let's finally go to South Carolina, where I saw, or let me rephrase it, South Cry-a-lina. Let's just rephrase it as that. Because all I heard was Shane Beamer saying, "Oh, woe is me, why are we not in the playoff?" I know those weren't his exact words, but that's what I got from it. Okay. Ole Miss, you played Ole Miss and you played Alabama. You played one of them in Tuscaloosa and you played the other one in your own yard at Williams-Brice Stadium. And you lost the game against LSU, which Lenore Sellers got hurt. I know, I've heard that too. But let's just stick to these two. You win in Tuscaloosa or you win in Williams-Brice and beat one of them, you're going to be in. You're going to be in. You might be in over SMU or Indiana or both. Either one. But guess what happened?
Can't put
Nothing.
Carolina in. Can't put Carolina in over Alabama when they lost head to head. But I think one of the reasons.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. If they beat Alabama, they're getting in. if we flipped it around. But guess what? That didn't happen.
Right.
That's why you're 9-3.
I think one of the things that
Had they had one of those wins, and it didn't have to be against Alabama, they may have had a better record than Alabama. I'm not sure that the head-to-head would have come into play. As
I
much.
think one of the reasons that South Carolina people were frustrated. South Carolina people are frustrated because they got hot late and they feel like they would have been competitive in the playoff, which is probably true, but you got to get there to be competitive.
Well, you've got to look at the entire body of work. You can't just go, well, they were hot that last half of the season. Oh yeah, we should put them in. And I understand that they talk about, well, SMU's not going to draw a crowd because the ACC championship was probably only attended by the number of people that are on this podcast. Who the hell cares? Like, it doesn't come down to that. It doesn't.
I think Bama and Ole Miss and South Carolina has gotten past being left out because of who they've lost to. Now it's, well, you don't want to watch those teams anyway. They don't deserve to be in. And I'm like, they're Power 5 schools that actually won their championship or only have one loss. Why shouldn't they be?
Well,
They
it
need
comes
to
down
win.
And the last thing that I'll throw here, and I will let the table discuss, is going back to Greg Byrne now saying we need to recess our non-conference scheduling, or Lane Kiffin and his old hissy fit, and Shane Beamer in the South Carolina that they have been doing.
Grow a pair.
It makes it. Why are we not? Why as SEC fans are we not embarrassed by this? Like, did Georgia? It didn't seem to bother Georgia. Texas in their first year in the SEC, they got pretty close. They just can't solve the Rubik's Cube of Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. Didn't bother them. Tennessee was able to handle business, and that's why they are in. So it comes down to this: is like, well, SMU and Indiana shouldn't be in. Well, why did you let them in? Because your body of work practically let them in. But all you want to do is just point the finger to an external factor that had nothing to do with it. And as an SEC fan, that should be shameful and embarrassing. Because as Southerners ourselves, we were always told by our grandpappy and grandmammy that nothing ain't going to be given to you. You got to earn your shit. Well, guess what, Shane Beamer? Guess what, Greg Byrne? Guess what, Lane Kiffin? You got to earn your shit. Nobody can entitle you to anything.
Well, speaking of earning your shit, let's go ahead and pull up the Life Championship top 5 and see how it shakes out, guys.
Smacking Off the Podcast presents the Life Championship for 2024. Counting down from 5 to 1. Let's go. Number 5, the LSU Tigers. Number 4, the Miami Hurricanes. Number 3, the Ole Miss Rebels. Number 2 is vacant for this poll because the top 2 teams are tied for first place. Number 1 is shared by the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Michigan Wolverines. Fuck. Not sure what to do with 2 number 1s. Congrats to both teams. But only one can be crowned champions. On December 31st, these 2 teams will play each other in the ReliaQuest Bowl. This game is now officially a loser takes all battle for the 2024 Life Championship. May the worst team win.
All right, guys.
Landon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so a few more people showed up. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to let. Why don't you and Jason and Ed? Why don't y'all talk about the shit? I'm going to pull up a graphic. Did you say you wanted to talk about the committee selections, Landon?
Yeah, I mean, just about all of it and everything like that. I don't
I'm
know
gonna
everybody else's
I'm gonna pull up a
thoughts.
graphic so that we can look at it to reference what you're talking about.
First, real quick, we gotta talk about the immortal wisdom of Butch Jones and saying there could be a championship of life, and this year it's gonna be settled on the field between Michigan and Alabama. All right, guys,
And
go
that's
into
gonna be
your.
a beautiful fucking game, and Landon will testify.
That's right. Loser
Oh
takes all.
God.
We need our fans to start sending stars and donating so that next season we can sponsor this bowl game.
Or we can retire. One or the other.
Both.
So,
Both.
hey, Doug.
I miss
Doug,
out on the
that game
Outback
is at
Bowl.
noon. That game is at noon on New Year's Eve, and I am not taking off work. I don't want to see that shit.
God damn it, Ed.
It's a revenge game, and the team seeking revenge is better. That's trouble.
All right,
We
Landon.
need
I
we
gotta
need an
give you a
Alabama
big
win
game.
so badly, so badly.
Oh
yeah. Well, I mean, does anybody know if Mason Graham and like Kenneth Grant and all those defensive linemen for Michigan are even playing?
Mason Graham just declared
Probably
for the
not.
draft today.
So is he not going to play, or is he going to play?
He hasn't stated yet, but I would hope he doesn't play.
Okay. Well, I mean, for Alabama's sake, it's probably a good thing if he doesn't play because he would just wreak havoc on the defensive line and probably just eat up Milrow, and it'd be an absolute 6-3 barn burner.
Well, according to the Detroit Free Press, he has opted out of the bowl game and declared for the draft.
Hooray!
Congratulations, Bama.
Good deal. So just because there's a few, I don't know if I know y'all in here. What fans is everybody? Just curious.
Michigan.
Okay.
I hate everybody.
You know who I like, Landon. Come on.
I really don't. I know who's speaking seriously.
Notre Dame, Sean.
Oh, Sean, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were in here. I'm sorry, my bad.
You're good, man. What's up?
I apologize. I can't. This new Streamlabs, it doesn't show up like when someone talks. It doesn't show who talks and everything like that. All I'm looking at is a video.
Yeah, that's on me. My bad, dude. How you doing?
Well, that's on me because I didn't introduce everybody, Landon. So you're here with Doug, myself, Dr. Balls, Sean Devine, Nikki Mays, and Jason Marks of CBS Sports.
And Ed.
And I'm a Gator.
And Ed Scribner,
he's a Michigan man.
Intrepid Rider. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll be doing previews of all the playoff games.
Magical.
I'll be drinking for that.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. What do y'all have y'all talked about any games so far or none?
Oh no, he's somebody. He's a writer and he's going to publish some stuff. But we are going to preview the playoffs at some point, undeniably. And we just knew he had a lot to say about this particular subject right now about who's in and who's not landing. And I thought it was the perfect time to bring into the show along with Doug and really get it out there. Jason had his piece on it too. So let's have it out. We got Sean, he knows what he's talking about. I know you do. I know Jason does. Nikki and Ed as well. So I want to get this out. We want to hear what you got to say, Big Daddy.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first reaction I have to the thing is I'm happy we do have a 12-team playoff. I think it's really good. And I think a lot of the matchups, despite people who might think that certain teams shouldn't have got in, shouldn't have or should have, and vice versa, I think they're all going to be really good and really fun to watch. I think Sean and I have kind of touched on this a little bit outside and everything, but the only problem that I do have a little bit are some of the auto buys and some of the seating as well, and it's pretty crazy if you take a team like Oregon who has ran through the schedule. They're undefeated. they're the only team in the top 12 who has beaten not one, not two, but three top 12 teams this year in Ohio State, Penn State, and Boise State. Which a lot of people don't even realize Boise State and Oregon played early in the week, which that was a great game. I think Oregon won by like 3 and had to kick a game-winning field goal, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. And they
Yeah,
had
a really good game.
2 returns for touchdown in that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, a really, really good game, which again, this is what Sean and I have touched on. That's what college football, that's what makes college football fun. That's what's great about the sport is when teams go out of their comfort zone and they say, "Hey, let's play a game home and home instead of playing Mercer or Western Kentucky or uh, Western Illinois, whatever that or Akron." That's what's fun about it. But what sucks, they go undefeated. They beat all these teams and everything, and their reward is, hey, we're going to give you a first round bye, which, by the way, we're also going to give Arizona State a first round bye and Boise State, the team you beat, and we're going to give Georgia a first round bye. We're going to give them the same reward that you're also getting for going undefeated and beating 3 top 12 teams already this year. And your reward is you get the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. Have fun.
Yeah.
That is that. I'm not an Oregon fan. I would be so pissed off having to look at that, knowing that like next round, Boise State, the team you beat, that's a 3 seed, they get the winner of SMU, Penn State.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, speaking of Penn State losing the Big Ten championship game, and Josh Pate actually brought this up the other night on his show, where it seems that Penn State has now got the benefit of an easier
Agreed.
path compared to Oregon, which it's an excellent point. I will say personally that I am glad that the conference championships matter again. I'm happy for that because it almost just felt for a while after conference champions like Penn State back in 2016 getting snubbed for Ohio State, a team that they beat, to get into the playoff without winning their conference, set a bit of a bad precedent. So it's actually glad that we've been able to kind of come back and reset. But to your point, that there has to be some kind of tweak, but also it could be in fact, how much of it could have been the fact that Ohio State losing that game to Michigan, knocking themselves out of the Big Ten championship game, that could have been a factor. The question is now is like, how much of it could have actually been controlled and how much of it couldn't have?
Sure. And the thing is, when Ohio State, I think, lost to Michigan, what did they drop? 4 spots, I think?
I believe so.
I think it was 4. So, and obviously a lot of this is subjective because, look, if we all have a top 25 and then out of the top 25 in week 7, let's just say week 7, only one top 25 team loses or top 10 team loses, that team can only fall so far. And like you can't. So I know a lot of people are saying, well, how can one team drop 4 spots this week because they lose to a 500 team, and then another team in another week loses to a 500 team, and they only drop 3 spots or whatever. Well, you can't look at it like that because a lot of it depends on who else loses in that week that also affects the rankings. It's not just, well, the committee just said, well, we just really like Ohio State a lot, so we're just only going to drop them 4. And then we really hate, I'll just say Alabama. We really hate Alabama, and they lost to Oklahoma, so we're actually going to drop them 6 spots. We're only going to drop Ohio State 4 because we're just in this dark room and we just have a conspiracy theory that we just hate this team but love this team. I don't think that's it either. I think a lot of it is just who else loses, what else happens in the week, and things like that a lot of people seem to get all upset about. But in reality, it's a tough situation. You have to understand like who else loses and things like that too.
And to your point about that, going back to we're backtracking here a little bit. You want to talk about, like, for instance, Indiana, when Indiana lost to Ohio State in the way that they did.
Mm-hmm.
But how much, if it was for the fact, if Alabama would have held on and beat Oklahoma, if Ole Miss would have held on and beat Florida, if Miami would have held on and beat Georgia Tech, how much could Indiana have possibly dropped to where they may have been on that fringe of the playoff? They're going back to like external factors. Indiana got a bit of a saving grace for the fact that 3 of the top 10 teams fell on the same weekend. So they didn't drop as much. And it's been kind of their saving grace to lift them up there a little bit and hang around, get that win over Purdue, and bam, you're in. So a lot of
it helped Indiana that except for the Michigan game that was close and losing to Ohio State, they beat the shit out of everybody else.
They did, yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, Indiana lucked up this year. I mean, the way that their schedule fell and everything. I mean, it was just it's a thing of beauty. And then their out of conference game they had scheduled. I think it was against Louisville. That game got completely wiped out because of conference realignment, which I don't even understand why that would get wiped out in the grand scheme of things. Because one's in the ACC, one's in the Big Ten. I don't see where that would have played a factor. I mean, there was realignment. SMU and Baylor, it was SMU TCU. I think they still had their game or no, excuse me, it was BYU. BYU and SMU still had their game scheduled, so that didn't get wiped out. Alabama and Wisconsin still had their game scheduled. That didn't get wiped
SMU
out.
and TCU still played.
Yeah, they
too.
did.
Yes. So I don't know why Indiana and Louisville just got wiped out and the reason was, well, it's conference realignment, but all these other teams, all their games stayed in. Texas and Michigan still stayed.
So it
some of
sounded
those
like
games,
Beats me.
It was just a deal between the schools.
yeah, the governor's mandated some of those games, right? Some of these rivalry games are agreements between governors of either in the same state or a different state. But we'll come back to the CFP and how they picked and how you chose, even though the conferences had different levels of depth and stuff like that. How you leave one in and get one out. Well, guys, it was unprecedented this year, the level of competition within conferences. So they had a two-pronged thing going here. Not only do you have the CFP coming up, the first 12-team playoff, but you also have the consolidation of new teams into the SEC and into the Big Ten. And even though some people feel there should have been 9 games in the SEC, you still have to say that the scheduling within the conference, right, was brutal, guys. We've seen some of the greatest football that I've seen in a long time. I've been watching this game for 50 years, and I've seen some of the best football I've ever seen this year.
Well,
Yeah,
I know
I
for a
mean,
fact we're not going to 8 games. It's not happening now. No 9 games for the SEC anytime in the future. They're sticking to 8 after what happened.
I would disagree with that. It's to me, as Sankey said in the past, it's product, it's inventory, and if Disney decides to make an offer they can't refuse, you'll get a 9-game conference schedule.
But you're gonna have everybody fighting to play Mississippi State.
But Bill, you also
I
get
would have loved to have played Mississippi State this year as the 9th game, and that way Texas could have played like Ole Miss or Tennessee as the 9th game, and then all this and South Carolina could have played South Carolina and Texas could have played maybe as a 9th game, and A&M and Ole Miss could have played, and then that way all this. Well, who's better between Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina? Well, South Carolina's hot right now. Well, Alabama and Ole Miss both had the head-to-head over South Carolina. Then you had some people that were like, well, that doesn't matter because they played right now. South Carolina would win. Whatever people kept saying there, an extra game would have taken care of everything. It would have brought a lot more.
Sean's right. They're not going to go to a 9th game, but I'll throw in the caveat that they'll strong-arm the process and say, all right, we'll go to 9 games at some point. We get at least 4 in.
Now, let me rephrase what I said earlier. The SEC will not willfully on their own go to it. Mickey Mouse has to scratch the check before they do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I could for it.
And my thing is like everybody should, in my opinion, if the SEC goes to 9 games and obviously the Big Ten's already at 9, everybody goes to 9. ACC, you go to 9 too. If the ACC was at 9 conference games this year, guess what? The SMU Miami Clemson debacle doesn't happen. We're not having this conversation.
I
And what's
agree.
to say that
Big
the SEC
12 is
doesn't
at 9.
fight for those 9 games so that they don't hear this BS at the end of the season? Well, if this or that, this strength of schedule bullshit. Well, this is your schedule because this is your conference. We're playing what is handed to us. We're not picking up no crap, ninth ridiculous team. We're playing more SEC play. It just
Mhm.
makes them look better. The Big Ten is already, they use that they play 9 conference games.
And the
Sure.
Big 12.
And I feel like the SEC would do the same. Why not?
It would help everything. I mean, it really would. It's
Yeah.
but like I said, everybody's got to do it though. That doesn't mean the SEC goes to 9, but then the ACC stays at 8. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody be either everybody be at 8 or everybody be at 9. There's not this whole where we only got one person at 9, but these comps over here we're gonna leave them at 8. This one's gonna be at 8, and this one's gonna be at 9, and all that. I don't. Me personally, I don't feel like that works. I really don't. I think it's all or nothing. There's There's 4 Power 4 conferences. Everybody go to 9 games, or
And the
everybody go to
conferences,
8. Whatever you decide.
well, in
I'd
the
like to see
conferences,
that.
as big as they are now, it feels like they have to eventually go to 9 to break up the logjam.
That's a super valid point because I was saying, matter of fact, I was saying to Sean and Tim the other day, you can't add 2 more teams like we did with Oklahoma and Texas, but then keep the same amount of conference games. The math ain't mathing. You can't
And
add
also,
more teams and then keep the same conference games.
and some would even argue that maybe Texas got a little bit of leniency with some of their conference schedules in comparison to maybe a South Carolina, maybe a
Oh,
Florida.
I
Like
mean, the way the cookie crumbled, they did.
That they got
there's a
lucky.
lack of balance. There's a
Yeah,
lack of balance.
their SEC schedule this year, I'd have killed to play it. I mean, hell
Mhm.
yeah, I'd have loved to have played Mississippi State. And granted, they did get Vandy like we did, and hell, they only beat Vandy by 3. Shit, ain't like they walked into Vandy and just won by 50. Um, but I mean, at one point though, that was their best win. That was Texas' best win was Vandy at one point before Texas A&M. I mean,
At the
they
beginning of the
absolutely.
season, it looked good. At the beginning of the season, it looks good, but as we know, as the weeks unfurl, you know what everything's about. Week 6, it was pretty clear that it's exactly like you said, Brandon. And the shout out to Vanderbilt for being a competitive team and for giving teams like Texas a chance, because you got to say that any way it goes, if you're talking about the best 3 teams in the country, you got to be talking Texas has to be in it. I think them, Georgia, and Oregon are definitely the best 3 teams in the country.
Go Diego,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pavia, man.
Yeah, I thought he was a great player, man. I love a red quarterback. I love a guy with heart. He reminds me of Army's quarterback, right? Army had a great
Yeah.
quarterback.
Well,
I
he's
think,
been
I think Army's quarterback finished with as many rushing touchdowns as Ashton Jeanty.
Damn it, Jim.
So what's the problem with Ohio State? I mean, I feel like if you can fuck around and lose to Michigan, or like Alabama did, and fuck around and go to Norman and lose.
Well, they made a mistake in assuming that Will Howard was a significant upgrade over McCord, and he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ultimately.
I've been
I feel like Ohio State's got another shit in the bed in them. Maybe against Tennessee. Shit, I really don't know.
I think it's still a matter of, and I agree with that. Will Howard was not an upgrade. In fact, if you look at Kyle McCord this year with Syracuse, Kyle McCord was significantly better than Will Howard, with lesser skill position talent around him. But the fact of the matter is, it's still a day culture problem. It's still a lack of toughness along the interior lines, both offensive line and defensive line. And the problem was compounded when Chip Kelly continued to ram the ball towards the teeth of the Michigan defense, the strength of the Michigan defense. That game plan, for whatever reason, was really stupid. And you figure a great offensive mind like Chip Kelly would have figured something out either during the week or at least at halftime to change the tenor of that game. But losing to a team that only throws 62 passing yards on you at home is frankly embarrassing.
I mean, yeah, with Will Johnson being out, they had a real advantage on the outside, and they didn't use it.
You got three wide receivers at Ohio State that are would likely go between the first and second rounds of the NFL draft. You have to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, they look like us against Oklahoma. We kept trying to just run mill row, quarterback draw up the gut, and the running backs are sitting over here averaging 6, 7 yards a carry. And we just kept running mill row. Like it was just, just God just kept running into a wall every time, just run into a wall. And I think a lot of that, it's all, it's so funny. We've seen a lot of top teams lose this year, and it seems like every time we see the loss, it's almost they're all losing the same way. Vanderbilt plays smash mouth football, possesses the ball for 40 to 42 minutes and beats Alabama and has all, rushing yards and everything like that. Granted, Pavia still did stuff through the air. Oklahoma comes out. Vanderbilt had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. Oklahoma had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama, ironically. They both run the same scheme of offense in order to win the game, control the ball, not throw a lot, and it just hit them in the mouth. And then the same thing with Michigan, can't even throw a pass from here to your front door. And here we are, they go and they beat Ohio State. And it's like the same thing, the same way just keeps losing. And it's not that we're going to throw it all over the yard and throw for 500 yards and leave. We're just going to grind out the clock and try to win this thing 20-17 or 20-10 and get out of here. And it's
No,
like almost
we
like
have
it's like a shift in football.
We had this argument a few years ago with Tim Bailey, and I believe that you spoke on it as well, Landon, where I said that smash mouth football can still win by possessing the clock and brutalizing and controlling the game on the ground and being more physical to the other team. And Bailey said it could never be done again. But in the key games this year, just like you're saying, physicality and controlling the ball won the game.
Well, and what's happened is all these schools have recruited players and they have designed defenses to stop the RPOs because as we know, 2014 to 2020 basically was the most like heavy RPO spread era. I mean, the run of quarterbacks and offenses we all got to see, I mean, was incredible. I mean, and it was so difficult to defend because the linemen are able to go down 3 yards downfield in college. In the NFL, it's only 1 yard. If it was 1 yard in college, like it is in the NFL, guys like Hugh Freeze, Gus Malzahn, and Josh Heupel might not have jobs. I mean, it's that big of a difference in the 1 yard and 3 yard. That's why when you watch NFL football on Sundays, how many NFL teams do you see running stacked formations and having the receivers split out wide to the out of bounds, almost out of bounds? You don't. They
On the wrong
because
side of the
that
field.
yeah, because that doesn't work. The way Tennessee runs their offense, all them bunch quads out to the right and everything like that, and it doesn't work. That's why they don't do it in the NFL because that lineman downfield rule is not going to allow it to. But what's happened? All these teams have recruited and they have designed defenses to go very zone base heavy to try to stop the RPOs, and they have contained them. But the problem is when you do that, that means you give up now the smash mouth football, and then that's going to play because you're playing light boxes, you're playing lighter players, you're not playing 250, 255-pound middle linebackers anymore like Brandon Spikes and Rolando McClain back in the day. And
The
when
5-2
you get
was
hit in the
bad.
mouth, when you get hit in the mouth, you're like, I don't know what this foreign concept is. Can you please throw an RPO slant?
Landon, did you mean Takeo Spikes?
No, Brandon Spikes at Florida, but Takeo Spikes
Oh,
is
yeah,
really
yeah.
good one too.
Yeah, he was a good one.
You
The
know what
5-2 was a failure for Alabama. I had to get that out there. The 5-2, to your point, Landon, the 5-2 defense was a failure for Alabama this year.
Yeah, and now kids that are 18 to 22 years old, they're not running a 5-2 in college.
Nah.
I mean, they're
Okay,
really
so
not.
Love it.
So let me
I'm
throw a final
interested.
thought out there. Something for us to talk about on the way out. We don't want to blow our wad because we've got a lot of shows coming up dealing with these playoff games. But this is an interesting question. Looking at the seeding 5 through 12. Looking at this, which team? Just look at this. What team would it surprise? Is there a team in this list that you could see making it all the way to the national championship game and possibly winning it? and I'm talking about Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State, SMU, Penn State, Indiana, and
I
Notre
would
Dame.
say, just looking at it, I would say Notre Dame.
That's what I was going to say.
Notre Dame's a team that, and it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about, smash mouth football. Even if Alabama would have made the playoff, because I could argue with y'all about Alabama, SMU, and Clemson and all that shit show. But at the end of the day, Clemson, with the auto bid deal, they're in the playoff, even though the committee doesn't even think they're one of the 12 best teams. If they did, they wouldn't have them ranked 16th. So neither here nor there. But Notre Dame is the one team in this playoff. They possess a three-headed monster. They possess a physical downhill running quarterback with Riley Leonard, and they have two backs that are at 800 to 950 yards on the year apiece. I think Sean, you have to correct me on that.
Hey, you're about right. Yep.
Yeah. One of the main reasons that even if Alabama would have made the playoff and we played Notre Dame, we were not going to beat them. We were absolutely not. They would have been a horrible matchup for us because they would have done the same thing Oklahoma and Vandy did. And the one thing for them is they get to play Georgia without Carson Beck. Me personally, I don't think Carson Beck's coming back at all. I think that was a severe UCL deal.
It doesn't look good.
No.
And Carson and Georgia, for whatever reason, I don't know what they have on Texas. Texas can run the ball pretty good on everybody, but they can't run it on Georgia. But Georgia can't run the ball hasn't run the ball really on anybody. I don't even think Trevor Etienne has a 100-yard game this year. And they can run on Texas, and Texas supposedly has the best rush defense in the SEC, and
As
one
far
of the
as
top five
Georgia
in the nation.
as far as Georgia stopping Texas's run, it's probably one player that's creating the problem for Texas. That's usually how that shit goes.
Yeah,
one player, and you can't really. It's really hard to detect it because it's wherever he is on the field is just throwing something off for Texas.
There's something, because I can't understand how Alabama can run on Georgia, Florida can run on Georgia, Auburn had success, Georgia Tech had immense success, but then Texas rolls into town with you could argue the same amount of talent as Alabama, basically.
I mean, it could come out of Texas's play calling too.
One of the best offensive minds in college football. And they can't run the ball in Georgia. It's the damned. And then Georgia can't run the ball in Alabama. They don't really They didn't run the ball well on Florida at all. Didn't run the ball that great on even Georgia Tech. But yet they play Texas, and here we go. We could eclipse 150, 170 yards in both games.
It's to their advantage at Georgia to not use Beck because Beck is an interception daddy. I mean, I think he's one of the most overrated quarterbacks in recent years, even though his initial numbers seem to fish it. He turns the ball over a lot of different ways. I mean, I hate it that the gentleman is hurt, but really maybe they do need to focus in on the run. Maybe that's the key to Georgia having any success in the playoffs. If that's the case, and Notre Dame and Georgia get together in that part of the bracket, it could be ugly, guys. That could be
and that's what I think Notre Dame's going to give problems with Georgia, because I think Notre Dame's going to take the same game plan Tech had, and the thing is they have the personnel to do it. They actually Riley Leonard is really physical and can go downhill, and then you have not one but two backs to keep fresh. They're the one team that has the personnel to do that, and then not to mention, I would argue Notre Dame's probably got top 3 secondary in the country this year. I mean, they're really good in the back end. So even if they do try to throw with Gunnar Stockton, you're going to have some problems back there. So that's what, so Notre Dame would go from there, and then they would play. Hell, you get SMU, Penn State, or Boise State. I mean, any of those teams, I would take Notre Dame over any of them.
Notre Dame got Notre Dame. The winner of Notre Dame, Indiana plays Georgia.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying if Notre Dame gets through
yes,
Georgia,
absolutely.
I mean, I would take them over any of those three. So, to answer your question, my pick would be Notre Dame.
So let me throw this out there, and I agree with you about Notre Dame, but another team, and I've already badmouthed them as we were kind of heading into this segment. Ohio State. I mean, you fucking figure out how to lose to Michigan for a fourth straight year. This guy could lose his fucking job. I mean, there's nobody really talking about it, but
I
the
know.
amount of money that he makes, and he's lost to Michigan 4 straight years, absolutely, this guy can lose his job.
But are you saying Ohio State could win it?
I'm saying that Ohio State personnel and on paper, it wouldn't be the strangest fucking thing in the world if they upset Oregon and get into this final. It wouldn't blow me away. I've seen stranger shit in my life. I'll tell you.
I don't think
Can I,
to win
let
4
me
straight.
ask y'all something though. Seriously, if they were to fire Ryan Day, who are you going to go get?
I agree with you there, Landon, but I think they definitely could fire him.
I'm just saying, like,
you get somebody for cheaper that can do the same shit he's doing.
I get the frustrations with Ryan Day. I understand it. I really do. I think it was the dumbest thing in the world for him to spend all that money on that damn roster. Fuck you, Caleb Downs, by the way. All that stuff. Okay. I get everything everybody is saying, but at the end of the day, who the hell are you realistically going to go get and you think is going to truly do just that much better of a job? Generally
Their
speaking,
Homer
who are you
Radio-
going to do it?
Their Homer Radio is calling for Urban Meyer, dude. I'm listening to their AM radio across the river over here. And
Yeah, the same
they're-
Urban Meyer that would like get blown out by Iowa and then like have random losses to like Purdue and all that. But hey, he beat Michigan, so everybody's just all happy.
Oh yeah, that must be a problem.
I mean, it's not like Urban Meyer was perfect either at Ohio State. I mean, he got in the playoff and what? Clemson beat him 31-0.
What you're saying is the same exact reason that Hugh Freeze was hired at Auburn. If they beat their rival, they're happy.
Facts,
guys.
So I think the answer is if you could get him away from his NFL hopes and dreams, the answer is is Vrabel, who is an Ohio State alum. I know he prefers to stay in the NFL, but he'd be the perfect culture fit for Ohio State to bring toughness back into that culture.
Guys, hold on, wait, guys. We know what the answer is to this. We know it all the time. It's John Gruden.
Well, he is from Ohio. There is that.
5 weeks ago, he was hired at Florida.
Get the groomers going again.
So does anybody else share my opinion though that it would not blow them completely away if Ohio State walks through this and wins this?
Well, we already said that.
I don't think they have the chops to win 4 straight.
I mean, they have the talent to do it, obviously. I mean, yeah. I mean, if everything goes together and they put all the pieces together, yeah. I mean, Ohio State is super damn talented.
Real quick, guys. Shout out to
sleeper. Got a sleeper.
What?
What's that?
They backed their way into the conference championship game. Everybody's been talking shit about them all year. Dabo will have his boys ready for Texas.
No,
they won't. You got to be fucking kidding me.
I totally agree. I totally disagree with you.
I totally disagree.
About Alabama in August.
Clemson is not going to be ready for Texas. Texas is pissed.
Real quick, and this is about the 5 through 12 seeds here. Shout out to Jen Chavez. We talked about this before we did the podcast. We didn't want to waste our time on Tennessee for the podcast. Tennessee don't have a chance in hell of getting past the first round. God damn it!
Well, Doug, that to your previous topic, if Tennessee embarrasses Ohio State in the shoe, then Ryan Day's out the door. I think the Monday after that game.
I agree. They'd have to be.
I agree.
Yeah. If Josh Heupel were to go up there in the cold, in the frozen tundra of Ohio, and just hang a million and all that and win that game, that day he would be fired.
Tennessee fans already believe they have.
Dangerous. Tennessee's dangerous, man. They can run.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee's got an offense that if you haven't really faced that Briles wide split deal and everything that they do, and you're not used to doing it, it can shell shock you, and it may shell shock Ohio State to the point that they don't have enough room for error, and they can't. It's kind of like Clemson SMU. Clemson shell shot SMU the first quarter and went up 21-0, but after that they got outscored 31-13, and SMU still ended up with 150 more total yards than Clemson. It's the same thing with Heupel's offense. It could happen.
The other thing that
I think it
Tennessee has
depends.
going for them in this
We don't
game
say anything good
is
about Tennessee, okay?
the other thing Tennessee has going for him in this game, where we found a bit of a chink in Ohio State's armor. Tennessee's got a very decent defensive line. That front
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
four is going to cause problems for that Ohio State offensive line, particularly with Ohio State operating with their backup center after they lost that kid in practice to the ACL. So Ohio State better scheme a way to handle that off, because Will Howard is awful under duress. He is awful.
Oh, he's gonna get
I think it
dressed.
depends which Nico shows up.
Are y'all
Well, I
like
mean, all they have to do is run the ball.
Yeah, good Nico or Arkansas Nico.
Yeah, well, which Nico? Yeah, about to
You
say,
know, the
well,
spread on
just
that.
put crimson jerseys on Ohio State, and I'm sure you'll get the right Nico.
You know that the
I'm sure you'll
spread on
get him.
that game is 7.5.
It seems like it's going to be closer than that.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
what
mean, the
I'm
key for
thinking.
Tennessee is, can they run with Dylan Sampson? Dylan
Yep.
Sampson is that's the Tennessee offense. Everybody has in their mind they're just big time, just throw it all over the yard, but they're not. They are really a grounded pound downhill running attack, which opens up everything else. That's why they split you out wide. They want to play a numbers game in the box, 5-on-5, 6-on-5 type of deal, depending on what personnel the defense plays. And I mean, if Dylan Sampson gets going and Ohio State can't win that battle on the D line against Tennessee's O line, Tennessee will move up and down the field. That's
I
the way the
agree.
offense is designed. You have to win the battle in the trenches with them, because if you don't, Tennessee can do anything with that offense, which is what makes them so dangerous.
They can open up
I
that
agree.
real estate.
And there's
Yeah.
no guarantee Ohio State wins in the trenches. That's the problem.
I don't even talk, so I don't have
Yeah,
anything.
I mean,
No, there's really isn't.
for the line being 7.5, I'd take the 7.5 with the Vols.
Absolutely.
And there
What do
is
y'all?
snow there. There could be ball handling issues where the center is out for Ohio State. There could be ball handling issues in the bad weather, and this coming more is coming in tonight and tomorrow. Actually,
Or just Tennessee's just gonna lose. Just we don't like to say anything good or give them any type of hope that they're gonna win. So let's
Right on, Nikki. Right on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I
definitely pulling for Ohio State.
agree with that, but we do have to
my
go.
first time ever pulling for Ohio State.
It turns out that Tennessee Oklahoma game from earlier in the year was a good actual barometer. We take aside from the fact Oklahoma's offense was terrible. We know that, but the actual physicality in the trenches, Tennessee was able to move the ball against what turned out to be a pretty good defense by Oklahoma this year.
Mm-hmm.
I've said all year long, I thought Oklahoma actually does have the best defense in the SEC. The problem is the offense is so horrendous. The defense has played the most snaps in football this
Yeah,
year,
they're
so
out
the
there all
numbers
day
look
and they're
skewed.
exhausted. Yeah, they're out there all
Yeah,
day, and by the end of it, they're exhausted, and you get them.
exactly.
Well, I
But
mean, that's how Arkansas and Florida had a chance to win on Tennessee. As we watched that game, the film on Oklahoma, they knew how to get to Nico. They knew how to shut him down, even though they didn't win. If they would have probably changed quarterbacks earlier in the game, they probably would have had a better chance. But they played them hard and opened up those holes to where these other teams were able to do the same thing and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think Ohio State, and that's the same thing with, this, talking about, how this one wins, how these teams won. Alabama lost to Vandy because they were set up. They got exposed with those little holes with Tennessee, those little holes, and they used that and capitalized on it with Vandy.
Hey, don't be talking about our little hose there, Nikki.
No, I like our little hose.
So to answer Doug's question, as I look at it, Doug, I think Texas has probably the best road to get to the Final Four. I think Texas is going to just bulldoze Clemson and Austin, and then going to the Peach Bowl against Arizona State. You think it's going to be a partisan Longhorn crowd there in Atlanta. I think Texas will beat Arizona State in Atlanta. Now they're in the Final Four, and then anything can happen. So I think Texas probably has the best
Yeah,
road along.
everybody does understand, by the way, Arizona State and Mississippi State played earlier this year. Didn't Arizona State have to go into overtime to beat Mississippi State?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I thought
But
so. By the way, kudos to Arizona State for scheduling that game. I appreciate y'all for scheduling a game, even though you were projected to finish dead last in the Big 12. Thank you for at least dialing the word risk, unlike Indiana, you fuckers.
But I think the thing that amazes me most about the opening round matchups is the scarcity of them. Other than Indiana, Notre Dame, who have played over 35 times in history, Texas and Clemson have never played. Tennessee and Ohio State have played once, I believe, in the Citrus Bowl in 1996, which I think Tennessee won 20-17. SMU and Penn State have played a total of 2 times back in SMU's glory years in the late 70s, early 80s. So these are 3 of the 4 games. These opponents are not familiar with each other at all, and I think that's a good thing. We kind of want to see that. We want to see new matchups versus and unfortunately the non-college football playoff bowls didn't get that memo. And we got the same old, other than thank goodness we didn't get Iowa and Tennessee for the 500th time in the Outback or Music City Bowl. So
real quick before we go, I don't know if this was brought up when I stepped away from the mic a minute ago, but SMU at Penn State. Sorry, SMU.
That's what my kids call it, SMU.
SMU, yeah.
SMU.
Interesting game, and I'm not totally opposed to SMU going up there and beating Penn State. Franklin in big games.
Oh God, he's awful.
Leaves a lot to be desired. SMU's got a good offense.
But have they seen a front 7 like Penn State's got?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know, man. If you ask Clemson fans, they have the best front 7 God has ever created. They have it every year. So I don't know. You might want to ask Clemson that question because apparently
you need to ask Clemson Dane. He'll tell you.
Apparently their D line is just unbelievable and is never. I don't even know if they've ever allowed a rushing yard.
I think they're very good, though. I wouldn't underrate Clemson's front 7. So their linebackers are the kind of guys, though, that go to church with Dabo Swinney. I think, so I find that very interesting. They're well coached, but I don't think there's any kind of talent gap there that's massive.
Well, Robert, I think what you meant to say was the whole defense kind of sounds a little average, but the best part of the defense is definitely the defensive line.
Right.
I think the formula for SMU was to watch the. Now, I'm not saying their quarterback is as good as Dylan Gabriel, but the formula is there. SMU has the receivers and the offense to kind of play the style that Oregon played the Big Ten championship game, which certainly caused Penn State a lot of problems defensively. I mean, if Oregon wanted to in that last drive, they could have hung a 50 burger on Penn State. They chose not to. The game was in hand, but that. Again, weather's going to play a factor in State College for a passing attack. Hopefully the weather's benign. But if the weather is benign, the formula was there. Oregon showed you how to throw the ball through the air to beat Penn State.
I can't envision SMU, like getting into the final and winning this or anything, but I can definitely envision them upsetting Penn.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what happens after the Boise, though? Is Boise Boise won a conference, but really,
I really don't know. I have no clue. I don't. I haven't watched Boise.
I watched them a few times. I watched Boise and Utah. That was actually a great game. Then there was some fuckery that went on, and I've watched Boise 3 times, and I forget which game. 2 weeks ago, and he ran for 239 yards on like 30 carries. The Johnson, I think Penn State, if Penn State got past SMU, that they would beat Boise handily. That's my opinion. But I believe if SMU gets past Penn State, then we don't know what's going to happen in that game, and it's an easy path for Boise if they're able to exploit it. But I don't know. I think it's a gift. Their seed is a gift because they're a conference champ.
I think if you want, it depends on what you want as far as a game. If you get Penn State and Boise State, I think you get a similar style of game. Whereas I think SMU Boise State would be a more exciting game because it's contrasting styles.
I think SMU can get past Boise. I think if SMU wants to get into the final game, they need Indiana to upset Notre Dame. There's no way they're getting past Notre Dame.
It's most likely going to be Texas, Georgia 3, guys. We've already had an unprecedented thing of a team beating a team twice in the same year. I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it's unusual for a team to beat another team twice in the same year that are highly ranked. And now we could have a third game in the very end between Texas and Georgia. And I think if they script this like they sometimes seem to, you can see that, but I don't know. I mean, Oregon is for a long time. Oregon's been scratching and sniffing and being close, highly ranked, and really haven't won it. And sometimes I feel it's scripted for teams to win it, but to me, it looks like they're looking for Georgia, Texas 3.
And
You know, I can guarantee you the money people are not going to be upset if it's Georgia, Texas in the final.
To go way back,
I will, because I'll have to watch Quinn Ewers try to play football again. My God.
I can't handle them meeting back up because Lord have mercy, their fans on both sides are insane.
Well, let them beat the shit out of each other. If they gonna be like that, hell, that's like Tennessee and Ohio State fans. I mean, they're gonna get all up in the shoe and everything, and they're gonna. Hell, that's a damn barn burner right there between which one can talk more shit.
I'm going to tell you, Texas and Georgia in the final would be great for the money people. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and any of the blue blood teams.
To me, to go back to the beginning of the segment where Lana started with the bracketing and the seedings, what would make this better? And hell, ESPN would love it because we can do another Tuesday night special where Reese and them pontificate for 35 minutes before they release the rankings. Is we get the first round games done, we see the results, we get the winners, we reseed them to play the next round. If Ohio State looks like shit, but they squeak it out by a point over Tennessee, or Indiana upsets Notre Dame, like we reseed, and that would be to the benefit of an Oregon.
And here's another thing you could do with that, Sean. You see how bad the regular bowls are suffering right now with this bowl schedule. The losing teams could go on to bowl games after that.
Sure. Yeah, because the first round, those aren't bowl games.
Right, exactly. And they could go into bowl games, and it would only help the bowl games to have those caliber of teams in the bowl games.
Like as an Alabama fan, I'd love to play SMU or I'd love to play Clemson.
Absolutely.
I would be head over heels to have that game. But now I got to watch us play Michigan with
again.
I don't even know what they'll. Yeah, I got to watch it again. And then I got to watch Ole Miss and Duke. They're already 14.5-point favorites. That's going to be a joke.
That lose can't complain about it. I mean, they were in a fucking playoff that could have taken them 3 more games afterwards. So to go to a bowl game after,
if you're in a bowl game and the Vegas line comes out already at 14 or over, you messed up. Those teams shouldn't be playing each other.
Here's how bad the other bowls are. One, I think Ole Miss and Duke played a home and home within the last 10 years. I'm pretty confident of that. Same with Georgia.
Same with Georgia news, guys.
Go ahead.
What's that? Being promoted to offensive coordinator at South Carolina.
Who is?
Mike Shula.
Oh my God!
The ghost from coaching past. Wow.
Oh God! Well, poor South Carolina. We'll see y'all next year, 7-5.
Georgia Tech and Vandy have played a home and home recently, and then the cherry on top of the shit that is the non-CFP bowls. Conference mates BYU and Colorado have decided they're going to play a bowl game against each other.
I was really hoping to see Alabama, Colorado.
Yeah,
just the fact that Saban would have been there, and Saban and
Alabama, Miami. That'd have been great. Bill Hill and Cam Ward. Bro, that'd have been awesome.
Oklahoma and USC.
Yeah, I don't think the bowl matchups were made by people who.
No, I hate bowl tie-ins and how they do it. I hate that shit. So I hate the Big Ten versus the SEC has to be in a bowl. No, just look at the rankings and seed the teams and put them in a bowl.
We need a committee for the non-CFP bowl games so we get decent matchups. Because you look at this, the only one that really is enticing to me even though it's in a shit location. Sorry, but you got the AAC champion Army playing the Sun Belt champion in Marshall. That should be in a better location. Instead, it's in
But isn't
Shreveport at the Independence Bowl.
playing?
I agree with you 100%.
They all hit the portal.
I will say the
And Marshall just lost their coach.
I know it's going to sound like I'm a homer or whatever, but the best bowl game is Alabama Michigan for the Life Championship.
The Life Championship, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Alabama.
Life Championship. That's right. Yeah.
Loser
Well, I'll
takes
tell you
all.
another bowl that I thought was completely crazy. Oklahoma finishes 6-6. Guess who else finishes 6-6?
Who's that?
USC.
USC, yeah.
And guess what? USC is in a bowl game with Texas A&M, an SEC versus Big Ten tie-in bowl game in Las Vegas.
No, hold on for a
8-4.
second. Hold on for a second, Landon. You missed this one. Jason, tell them your idea for Oklahoma in the bowl game. Sorry, is Jason still here?
No, I guess so.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and plug it because he threw it out yesterday in the chat. The Birmingham Bowl should have been Oklahoma and Vanderbilt for the Alabama State Championship.
No, yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been cool because they both beat Auburn and they both beat Auburn and Alabama.
Right.
It should be that, or as Landon said, it's the Lincoln Riley Bowl, Oklahoma versus USC.
That bowl. Do you know what the viewership that bowl would have gotten?
Huge.
Oklahoma versus USC, and instead you got to have A&M go out there, and by the way, A&M is going to beat the ever living shit out of USC. That is going to be a joke. I don't even know why the spread is even so low. USC's defense is terrible. And A&M's at least got and then also USC's quarterback's not even playing.
But A&M's, whoever their quarterback is, tends to usually give the other team gifts.
He does, but I don't even think he'll have to run the football. I mean, throw the football. I really don't. I don't think it will be.
What quarterback's going to play because their backup quarterback went in the portal too?
Did my
your guess is as good as mine? I have no idea.
Like USC is going
so
to.
I know Miller Moss is in the portal, but I didn't see Maeva go into the portal.
Yeah, it was just announced.
Maeva's already in the portal? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ed, are you ready to go to bed, Ed?
I'm very tired.
All right. y'all heard the man. We're going to leave so Ed can go to bed.
There you go. Gang.
Fuck them horns, fuck Clemson.
Yep, and Clemson Dane. Fuck Clemson Dane. Oh, and how about Texas hooking their horn up their own ass the other day? That was worth watching. All right,
I have to say though one last thing, Doug. As far as the teams that didn't make the playoffs, all the what ifs. Well, I say if the dog hadn't stopped the shit, it would have caught the rabbit.
Out later.
Your team sucks. Donkey ball. Your team sucks. Donkey ball. You're probably getting fired before the season's end. And even lose your wife and your asshole friend.
Your Team Sucks Donkey Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the podcast. Stream in every week for another victim as we kick them while they are down.